The transport ship landed hard on the jungle planet, and nobody came to greet the new arrival. Rhea Holbrook stepped off the ramp and felt the humid air wrap around her like a wet blanket. She was small for a human. Thin. Her dark hair was cut short and practical. She carried one bag over her shoulder and nothing else, and no weapon. No shield generator. Nothing. The research station called Outpost Fern sat 200 meters ahead. It was a collection of metal buildings surrounded by high fences and sensor towers. Beyond those fences, the jungle glowed with strange blue and purple light. Bioluminescent plants covered everything. Beautiful and deadly. This was Ashwood, 7. A category, 5 Deathworld. Everything here wanted to kill you. Rhea walked toward the station. She did not look at the jungle. She did not hurry. She moved like someone walking through a garden back home. Station Commander Driss met her at the gate. He was Palori, an insectoid species with 4 arms and large compound eyes. His translator box hung around his neck. "You are the replacement xenobiologist," Driss said. It was not a question. Rhea pulled out her tablet and typed quickly. The tablet spoke for her. "Yes. Rhea Holbrook. I am here to study the native predators." Driss stared at her. His antennae twitched with confusion. "You are deaf," he said. Rhea nodded. "And you refused auditory implants." She nodded again. Driss made a clicking sound that her tablet translated as frustration. "The last 3 researchers who held your position are dead. Killed by razorbacks. Pack hunters. They use sound to coordinate attacks. You cannot hear them coming." Rhea typed. "I don't need to hear them." Driss did not know what to say to that. He led her inside and showed her to the research wing. Other scientists watched her pass. She saw their expressions clearly. Pity. Confusion. Some of them whispered to each other. She read their lips easily. Another human sacrifice. She won't last a week. Why send someone broken? Rhea did not react. She had heard these things before. Well, not heard, but she knew what people said about her. She had known her whole life. Her quarters were small, but clean. She unpacked quickly and then found Driss in his office. "I want to begin field surveys tomorrow," she typed. "Alone. Unarmed." Driss's compound eyes seemed to bulge. "That is suicide. It is my job." "Your job is to study predators. You cannot study them if you are dead." Rhea typed slowly, making sure each word was clear. "The predators killed your armed researchers. Perhaps a different approach is needed." Driss had no argument for that. The logic was sound, even if it seemed insane. That night, Rhea could not sleep. The station hummed with generators and life support systems. She felt the vibrations through the floor, but heard nothing. She never heard anything. She got up and walked to the station's perimeter fence. The jungle pressed close on all sides. The blue glow of the plants made everything look like a dream, movement in the trees. She saw it clearly, razorbacks. 6 of them. They were the size of large wolves, but with 6 legs and scales instead of fur. Their eyes glowed red in the darkness. Thermal vision. They could see body heat from 100 meters away. They were watching her. Rhea stood still. She did not grip the fence. She did not step back. She simply looked at them. The largest razorback tilted its head. It made a sound she could not hear. The others responded. Then they turned and vanished into the jungle, not running from danger, not chasing prey. They simply left. Rhea watched them go. Then she turned and walked back to her quarters to eye in the security center. Driss reviewed the footage the next morning. He watched it 5 times. Then 10 times. The razorbacks had been hunting. Their body language was clear. They had found prey at the fence. A small, soft, defenseless creature standing alone in the darkness. And then they left. Driss had commanded this station for 3 years. He had seen razorbacks tear through armed security teams. He had seen them break through reinforced barriers to reach a single wounded researcher. They never retreated. Never. He watched the footage again. The human woman stood at the fence like she owned the jungle. No fear in her posture. No tension. Nothing. The razorbacks had looked at her. And something made them decide she was not worth the risk. Driss felt a strange chill run through his exoskeleton. What had they seen that he could not? He pulled up her personnel file and read it again. Rhea Holbrook, 34 years old. Born on a frontier colony called Dustfall. Survived a bacterial infection at age 12 that destroyed her hearing. No family listed. No emergency contacts. The file said nothing special. Just another human researcher. But the razorbacks had fled from her. Driss closed the file and looked out his window at the jungle. Somewhere out there, the most dangerous predators on this planet were avoiding a small, deaf woman who carried no weapons. He did not understand it. He was not sure he wanted to. 3 Razorbacks had killed a fully armed security team last month. They found the bodies scattered across 50 meters of jungle floor. Now Rhea walked through that same jungle alone, and the Razorbacks watched her from the shadows without moving. Suli pressed her face closer to the monitor screen. She was Venery, a small species that evolution had designed to be eaten by everything else. Her fur was gray, her eyes were huge, and her hands trembled as she tracked Rhea's bio-sign through the jungle. Her heart rate is 52 beats per minute. Suli whispered to herself. That is resting rate. She is walking through a kill zone, and her heart rate is resting. On the screen, Rhea's dot moved steadily through the red areas of the map. Red meant extreme danger. Red meant do not enter without heavy escort. Rhea had entered alone at dawn. It was now midday. She was still alive. Suli had been assigned to monitor the human's vital signs. It was supposed to be a simple job. Watch the numbers. Call for help when they spiked. Prepare the medical team for another body recovery. But the numbers never spiked. Rhea collected soil samples. She photographed plants. She recorded video of predator tracks. She did all of this while creatures capable of killing armored soldiers watched her from the undergrowth, and none of them attacked. Back at the station, Dr. Bram studied the same data with growing fascination. He was Torvian, a species that looked like a bear crossed with a boulder. Herbivores. Peaceful. His specialty was xenopsychology. Look at how she moves, he said to Driss. They were watching recorded footage from Rhea's chest camera. No sudden motions. No hesitation. She does not walk like prey. She is prey, Driss said. Small. Soft. Unarmed. Everything about her says prey. Everything except her behavior. Bram pointed at the screen. A Razorback appeared in the corner of the frame. It was tracking Rhea from 30 meters away. Watch. On screen, Rhea noticed the predator. She turned her head slightly and looked directly at it. Just looked. No panic. No freezing. No running. The Razorback stopped moving. Predators assess threats constantly, Bram explained. They read body language, muscle tension, eye movement, breathing patterns. They calculate risk versus reward in milliseconds. And what do they calculate when they look at her? Bram was silent for a moment. I do not know, but something tells them she is not worth attacking. In the jungle, Rhea continued her survey. She found a clearing where something large had recently fed. Bones scattered across the ground. Blood soaked into the soil. She knelt and examined the remains. A herbivore of some kind. Big. Probably 3 times her weight. Something had torn it apart. Movement behind her. She did not turn quickly. She did not freeze. She simply stood and turned at her own pace. A thornback stood at the edge of the clearing. 15 meters away. It was massive. 4 meters long. Covered in bony plates and spines. A solitary ambush predator that killed everything it encountered. The research files said no one had ever survived a thornback encounter in the open. Rhea looked at it. The thornback looked at her. Back at the station, Suli watched Rhea's biosigns. Heart rate, 54. Breathing, normal. Stress hormones, minimal. She is going to die, Suli whimpered. She is going to die, and her body will not even know it. The thornback took a step forward. Then another. Rhea did not move. The creature stopped. Its head tilted. Eyes that had evolved to find weakness stared at the small human woman. Rhea remembered being 12 years old. The fever had burned through her for 6 days. When it finally broke, the world was silent. Completely silent. She had screamed and heard nothing. Cried and heard nothing. She learned to survive without sound. She learned to read faces. To feel vibrations. To watch the tiny movements that told her everything she needed to know. She learned that fear was a noise that everyone could see, even if they could not hear it. And she learned to be silent in every way. The thornback studied her for a long moment. Then it turned and walked back into the jungle. Not running. Not hunting something else. It simply decided that this small creature was not prey. Rhea watched it go. Then she went back to collecting her samples. That evening, she returned to the station with a full data pack and no injuries. Driss met her at the gate with something like horror in his compound eyes. The thornback, he said. You encountered a thornback. Rhea typed on her tablet. Yes. It left. Thornbacks do not leave. They kill or they die. There is no other option. Rhea considered this. Then she typed. Perhaps it found a third option. She walked past him toward her quarters. Driss stood at the gate for a long time, watching the jungle. The blue glow of the plants seemed dimmer somehow. Less beautiful, more like a warning. Something was different about this human, something that predators understood and he did not. The research library was quiet at 3 in the morning, but Bram could not sleep. He had spent 6 hours reading everything ever written about human evolution. Now he sat surrounded by holographic displays, and his massive hands trembled slightly as he connected the pieces. Persistence hunting, he muttered. Of course. Of course. The door opened. Rhea walked in with a cup of something hot in her hands. She saw Bram and raised an eyebrow. Bram typed on his tablet so she could read it. I think I understand now. Why the predators fear you. Rhea sat across from him and waited. Bram pulled up a display showing human ancestors. Your species evolved on a death world. Not as deadly as this one, but close. You had no claws, no fangs, no armor. You were slow and weak compared to the predators around you. Rhea nodded. She knew this. But you survived. You became the dominant species. How? Bram leaned forward. Persistence hunting. Your ancestors would find prey and simply follow it. Not chase. Follow. For hours. For days. The prey would run and rest. Run and rest. But your ancestors never stopped. They walked and walked and walked until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Rhea's expression did not change. Other predators kill with speed or strength or ambush, Bram continued. Humans kill with patience, with inevitability. Your ancestors were not the fastest or the strongest. They were the ones who never stopped coming. He pulled up another display. Every predator on this planet has instincts older than thought. They can recognize threats instantly. A creature that never tires, that never gives up, that follows you no matter how far you run. Bram looked at Rhea. When they look at you, they see something their instincts remember. Something ancient. A creature that cannot be escaped, can only be avoided. Rhea considered this for a long moment. Then she typed, I am just a xenobiologist. No. Bram shook his head. You are a xenobiologist who grew up on a frontier world, who survived things that would kill most species, who lost her hearing and became more dangerous because of it. Rhea's fingers paused over her tablet. Other humans hesitate, Bram explained. They hear danger and their bodies flood with fear chemicals. They freeze or flee or panic. But you cannot hear the sounds that trigger fear. You exist in silence. Perfect, absolute silence. He pulled up her biosign records from the past week. Your stress hormones never spike. Your heart rate never races. Even when facing a thornback, your body remained calm. Controlled. Ready. Rhea read his words and said nothing. The predators look at you and see a creature with no fear. No hesitation. No weakness. They see something that will not run, will not panic, will not make the mistakes that prey makes. Bram's voice dropped low. They see death wearing human skin. The door burst open. Driss rushed in, his antennae vibrating with urgency. Supply shuttle crashed, he said. 30 kilometers east. Deep jungle. 3 survivors trapped inside. Rhea was already standing. Rescue teams cannot reach them. Driss continued. Too many predators in the area. We are calculating safe approach routes, but it will take hours. Maybe days. Rhea typed. I will go now. Alone? Impossible. The crash site is in the red zone. No researcher has survived that area. Rhea was already moving toward the door. Wait. Bram stood. Let me ask you something first. She paused. Are you not afraid? Rhea looked at the massive Torvian, then at the insectoid commander. Then she typed slowly, deliberately. Fear is loud. I have never heard it. She walked out. 20 minutes later, she stood at the eastern gate. She carried a medical kit and emergency rations. Nothing else. Driss had tried to give her a weapon. She refused. Sully had begged her to take a communicator. She took it but turned off the audio alerts. Now she faced the jungle. The red zone. 30 kilometers of the most dangerous terrain on the planet. She started walking. The jungle swallowed her within seconds. Bioluminescent plants cast blue shadows everywhere. Things moved in the undergrowth. Things with teeth and claws and hunger. Rhea did not slow down. 3 hours into her journey, she passed through a razorback territory. A full pack watched her from the darkness. She felt their eyes on her, but did not look at them. She was not their prey. They knew it. She knew it. They let her pass. 2 hours after that, she found the first thornback tracks. Fresh. The creature was nearby. She kept walking. The jungle grew darker, denser. The plants here glowed red instead of blue. Warning colors in nature. Danger ahead. Rhea did not hesitate. Somewhere behind her, things were following. Not hunting. Following. Curious. Uncertain. They had never seen something like her before. She was small. Soft. Alone. And she walked through their killing ground like she owned it. In the station, Sully watched Rhea's tracker move steadily east. The little Venery had stopped trembling. Now she just stared at the screen with something like wonder. She is not afraid, Sully whispered. She is really not afraid. Bram stood behind her, watching the same move through hell. No, he agreed. She is not. The crash shuttle had carved a wound through the jungle. Broken trees and scattered metal stretched for 200 meters. Smoke still rose from the wreckage. Rhea reached it at midnight. She moved through the debris field without hurry. Her eyes scanned for movement, for threats, for survivors. The jungle around her had gone quiet. Even the insects had stopped making noise. Something was watching. Many somethings. Rhea ignored them and approached the shuttle's main cabin. The door had been torn off in the crash. Inside, she could see figures huddled in the darkness. She climbed in. Two Palori researchers lay against the far wall. Their compound eyes were wide and unfocused. Shock. Their species did not handle extreme stress well. Fear could kill them as easily as any predator. Near them sat a young human. A pilot. Female. Her leg was bent at a wrong angle, clearly broken. Blood covered half her face from a head wound. The pilot saw Rhea and raised a shaking hand holding a small pistol. "Stay back," she croaked. "I'll shoot." Rhea held up her hand slowly. Then she pulled out her tablet and typed. "I am from Outpost Fern. I am here to help. My name is Rhea. I am deaf." The pilot stared at the words, then at Rhea. Then she lowered the gun and started crying. "They've been circling us all night," she said. "The creatures. They keep getting closer. I've been firing at sounds in the dark. I don't know how much ammunition I have left." Rhea typed, "What is your name?" "One. I'm One." Rhea knelt beside her and examined the broken leg. "Bad but manageable." She pulled out her medical kit and began working. "How did you get here alone?" When asked, the rescue team said it was too dangerous. They said nobody could reach us. Rhea did not answer. She focused on splinting the leg. "You walked here, through the red zone, alone." Wen's voice was hollow with disbelief. "How are you alive?" Rhea finished the splint and helped Wen sit up straighter. Then she checked the Palori. One was responsive. The other had slipped into a catatonic state. Fear-induced shutdown. She typed on her tablet. "Can you walk?" "With help." "Maybe." Rhea nodded. She began building improvised stretchers from shuttle wreckage. The conscious Palori watched her with dull eyes. "The creatures outside," he said, his translator crackling. "They will kill us the moment we leave." Rhea typed, "No, they will not. You cannot know that." She looked at him. Just looked. Something in her gaze made him stop talking. Outside, the jungle had grown even quieter. Rhea stepped out of the shuttle and stood in the clearing. The smoke had cleared. Starlight filtered through the canopy. Eyes glowed in the darkness. Dozens of them. Razorbacks. At least 2 thornbacks deeper in the trees. Other things she did not recognize. They had gathered around the crash site like wolves around wounded prey. Rhea stood in the open and waited. The largest razorback stepped forward. Pack Alpha. It was scarred and massive, clearly the dominant predator in this territory. It had probably killed hundreds of creatures in its lifetime. It looked at Rhea. Rhea looked back. The alpha tilted its head, made a sound she could not hear. The other predators shifted restlessly. Rhea took a step forward. The alpha did not retreat, but it did not advance either. She took another step. Still it held its ground. Testing her. Reading her. Rhea had learned to read bodies the way other people read words. Every twitch of muscle. Every shift in weight. Every subtle signal that revealed intention. The alpha was uncertain. Not afraid. Not yet. But uncertain. She took a third step. Now she was close enough to touch its scarred snout. She raised her hand slowly. The alpha's eyes tracked her movement. Its muscles tensed. Rhea placed her palm flat against its forehead. Just rested it there. No pressure. No threat. The alpha went completely still. In that moment, something passed between them. Predator to predator. A recognition that went deeper than thought. Deeper than instinct. "I am not your prey," her touch said. I am not your enemy. I am something else entirely. The Alpha exhaled. A long, slow breath. Then it turned and walked back into the jungle. The other Razorbacks followed. The Thornbacks melted into the shadows. Within minutes, the clearing was empty. One had watched from the shuttle door. Her face was pale. What did you do? She whispered. Rhea typed. I introduced myself. She helped one to her feet. Together, they lifted the stretchers carrying the PAL lorry. How do we get back? One asked. There are more out there. Hundreds more. Rhea typed. Stay behind me. Do not run. Do not scream. Walk like you belong here. I don't belong here. None of us do. Rhea looked at the young pilot. Then she typed. Tonight, you do? Tonight, you walk with me. And nothing in this jungle will touch you. They left the crash site as dawn began to lighten the sky. The jungle watched them go, and nothing touched them. They walked for hours. The jungle never stopped watching. Rhea moved at the front, setting a pace that the injured could follow. Behind her, one limped on her splinted leg, using a metal rod from the shuttle as a crutch. Behind one, the conscious PAL lorry dragged the stretcher carrying his catatonic colleague. Nobody spoke. The sun rose and painted the jungle in shades of gold and green. The bioluminescent glow faded. Daytime predators began to stir, and still they watched the small group. Always watching, never attacking, when finally broke the silence. How do you do it? Rhea glanced back. Wen's translator picked up her voice and displayed the words on Rhea's tablet screen. Stay calm. Wen continued. Stay so incredibly calm. Every shadow could have teeth. Every sound could be something hunting us. How are you not terrified? Rhea typed her response. Fear is a signal. Predators read it like you read words. If you show fear, you tell them you are weak. You tell them you can be killed. But we are weak. We can be killed. Rhea stopped walking. She turned to face Wen fully. So can they, she typed. Everything that lives can die. The question is not whether you can be killed. The question is whether you act like prey or predator. Wen stared at her. You're not pretending, are you? You're not faking confidence. You actually believe you could kill something out here. Rhea did not answer. She turned and kept walking. The truth was simpler than belief. Rhea had killed before. On Dustfall, when she was 14, a predator had attacked her family's farm. She had been alone, unarmed, deaf. She had fought it with a shovel and her bare hands. It had almost killed her. Almost. She still had the scars that by midday. They had covered half the distance. The red zone slowly gave way to orange territory. Still dangerous. Still deadly. But survivable. They stopped to rest in a small clearing. The PAL lorry were exhausted. One could barely stand. Rhea checked their water supplies. Running low. They needed to move faster. Movement at the edge of the clearing. Rhea turned slowly. 3 Razorbacks had emerged from the jungle. Young ones, from their size. Hungry from their posture. They had not been present the night before. They did not know about the strange human who walked without fear. They saw injured prey. Weak prey. Easy prey. One raised her pistol with shaking hands. I only have 4 shots left. Rhea typed. Put it down. They're going to attack. Put it down. Something in those words made one lower the weapon. Rhea walked forward. Toward the Razorbacks. Not fast. Not slow. Just walking. The young predators spread out. Flanking formation. Standard pack tactics. Rhea kept walking. The lead Razorback crouched. Muscles coiling. Ready to spring. Rhea locked eyes with it and did something strange. She smiled. The IT was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of something that had already won. Something that knew exactly how this encounter would end. The Razorback hesitated. Rhea took another step. Then another. She was 5 meters away now. Close enough to smell it. Close enough to see the confusion in its predator eyes that IT did not understand. This creature was small. Soft. Alone against 3 hunters. It should be running. It should be screaming. It should be dying. Instead, it was smiling. Instead, it was walking toward them. The Razorback's instincts screamed a warning. Something was wrong. This was not prey. This was something else. Something dangerous. IT backed away. The other 2 followed. Within seconds, they had disappeared into the jungle that Rhea's smile faded. She turned and walked back to the group. The PAL lorry researcher was staring at her like she had grown a second head. One just laughed. A broken, disbelieving laugh. What are you? One asked. Rhea typed. Tired. We need to keep moving. They walked until sunset. The jungle grew thinner. The station's sensor towers appeared on the horizon. 0.2 kilometers to safety. Then the ground shook. Something massive was coming through the jungle behind them. Trees cracked and fell. The earth trembled with each footstep that a thornback emerged from the undergrowth. The biggest one Rhea had ever seen. 6 meters long, covered in armor plates as thick as steel that it blocked their path to the station. Run, one whispered. We have to run. Rhea typed. No. Running makes you pray. We can't fight that thing. Rhea looked at the thornback. It looked back at her. Something passed between them. Recognition. This was the one from before. The one that had let her pass in the jungle days ago. It had followed her, tracked her, wanted to understand. Rhea typed one last message and showed it to one. Trust me. Then she walked toward the thornback, alone. The thornback lowered its massive head as Rhea approached. Behind her, one held her breath. The Palori had frozen in place. Even the jungle seemed to go still, waiting to see what would happen next. Rhea stopped 2 meters from the creature. Close enough to touch. Close enough to die. She did not look away from its eyes. The thornback studied her. Every instinct in its ancient brain was firing. This thing was small, fragile. It had no weapons, no armor, no pack. But something was wrong. Something was very wrong. Rhea raised her hand. Slowly, deliberately, she reached toward the creature's armored snout. The thornback could have killed her in a heartbeat. One snap of its jaws, one swing of its spiked tail, one simple movement, and she would be gone. It did not move. Rhea's palm pressed against its scales. Warm, rough, alive. She felt the vibrations of its breathing, the pulse of blood through its massive body, the tension in its muscles, and then the tension released. The thornback exhaled. A long, slow breath that she felt more than heard. Then it stepped aside. The path to the station was clear. Rhea turned to the others. Typed on her tablet, walk. Slowly. Do not run. They walked. The thornback watched them pass. It did not follow. It did not attack. It simply watched. When they reached the station gates, Driss was waiting with a medical team. His compound eyes were wide with something that looked like religious terror. You brought them back, he said. All of them. Alive. Rhea typed. That was the job. 2 weeks later, the footage from Wynn's suit camera had spread across every research network in the galaxy. Scientists from 100 species watched a small deaf human woman walk through a Deathworld jungle like she owned it. They watched predators flee from her. They watched a thornback bow its head and let her pass. Dr. Bram published his theory in the Journal of Xenopsychology. Human Evolution and the Predator Response. Why Earth's apex species triggers instinctual avoidance in Deathworld fauna. The paper went viral. Bram's conclusion was simple. Humans had evolved as persistence predators. They did not chase. They followed. They never stopped. Every predator species in the galaxy had instincts that recognized this pattern. A creature that does not tire. A creature that does not give up. A creature that will follow you until you die of exhaustion. And some humans, Bram wrote, had refined this further. Humans who survived extreme environments. Humans who lost senses and adapted. Humans who existed in perfect silence, free from the fear that weakened others. These humans were not just dangerous. They were death walking in soft skin. Within a month, research stations across the galaxy began requesting human specialists for their most dangerous postings. Not soldiers, not guards, just humans who could walk through fire and make the fire afraid. Rhea stayed on Ashwood 7 as she continued her surveys. Continued walking into the jungle alone. The predators still watched her. But now they watched with something that looked almost like respect. One evening, Driss found her at the perimeter fence. She was sitting in the grass, looking out at the jungle. A young razorback sat beside her. Not hunting, not fleeing, just sitting. How long has it been doing that? Driss asked. Rhea typed, 3 days. Same one each time. What? Rhea considered the question. Then she typed, curiosity. It wants to understand what I am. Do you think it will ever attack you? The razorback turned its head to look at Driss. Its eyes glowed red in the fading light. Then it looked back at the jungle. Rhea typed, no, it has already decided. Decided what? She was quiet for a moment. The jungle glowed blue and purple as night fell. Somewhere in the darkness, creatures were hunting, killing, surviving. Rhea typed her response and showed it to Driss. That I am not prey. I am something else. Something new. Driss read the words. What are you then? To them. Rhea stood. The young razorback stood with her. They faced the jungle together. She typed one final message. I am teaching them that death does not always have claws. Sometimes it walks silently. Sometimes it shows mercy. And sometimes it sits beside you in the grass and watches the stars. Driss had no response to that. Rhea walked back toward her quarters. The Razorback watched her go, then slipped back into the jungle. The galaxy had always feared what humans could do with weapons, with ships, with technology. They had never considered what humans could do without any of those things. Now they knew. And in jungles and deserts and frozen wastelands across 1,000 worlds, predators began to learn a new lesson. Some creatures do not need weapons to be dangerous. Some creatures do not need sound to be heard. Some creatures carry death in their silence. And in the darkness, when those creatures walk past, the wise ones bow their heads and let them go.